welcome to everyone joining from around the world to the Quantum View of Spirituality lecture series. We're here today with the founder of the Diamond Approach, Hamid Ali, who writes under the pen name Almaas. And we will begin today by welcoming everyone into the space, which we're doing now. And then Hamid will give a talk on today's topic. And after the talk, we will have time for questions and comments with Hamid before we close the session. And with that, it is my absolute joy, honor to turn it over to Mr. Hamid Ali.
Thanks, Amelia, for introducing me and everybody else from all over the world. Hopefully, we'll have a very interesting kind of session. It's a topic that I haven't talked about before, although I want to talk about it for some years. And it's not a teaching, although it includes a teaching. It is mostly a perspective about reality. And I'm calling it the quantum view of spirituality. And, well, yeah, you have to sort of see the word quantum and view of spirituality. So I'm talking about spirituality, about inner illumination, freedom, knowing the reality, waking up to what we are, all of that. But so why do I bring in the quantum? Well, the quantum is, I'm using it as a lens through which to look at spiritual experience in general, because there are many properties about spiritual experiences, spiritual awakening, that are rarely discussed in spiritual teaching. And I'm presenting a general overview that can put all the teaching together in one context and without making them all be the same thing. It's not just vanilla. So what does quantum? Quantum, for you who don't know about what quantum is a scientific part, important part of physics, the most important part of physics, starting from the beginning of the 20th century, which is first, before that, there was general science and physics from Galileo and Newton, all those. That's called now classical physics, classical science. And basically, the main thing about classical science is that if you know what something is happening now, using the laws of physics, you can predict where things are going to be in the future, what location, what speed, what force they have. So if you know where particle is and you know which speed is going, you can plot the graph where it shows where its future is going to be like. Quantum theory came in to show that wasn't the case at all situation. And the quantum view was people were looking at atoms and constituents of atoms, a small matter, not gross matter like billiard balls or planets, or they're looking at the elementary particles, part of, the small scale physical objects. So that's electrons, photons, atoms, nuclei, and proton, neutron, all of those things. And when they found out the way science changed from classical to quantum, is that they found out that in the quantum field, first of all, there are many properties I'm going to discuss, many properties or principles that we need to use. First thing, the idea of a quanta, where the word quantum came about. Quanta means discrete quantity of energy or mass. And that was the beginning. Max Planck, the first one who formulated this thing by calling it quanta, which is that energy and the microscopic level, it can only be in discrete amount. There is no continuous, uh, levels of energy, like an electron and an atom doesn't go from one level of energy to another continuously. It goes in jumps, called quantum jumps. So because its energy can only be discrete, can only be one thing or another thing. It cannot go slowly from one thing to another the way that classical physics goes. So that's the beginning of quantum theory, that energy and mass come in quanta. Quanta means discrete, very small unit usually. So that basically the meaning in quantum theory. Then, of course, it developed to a big field that is now the most dominant field of physics that is underlying most of our modern invention, like cell phone and GPS and all those things that depend on really in quantum properties that most people who are using those devices don't know that depends on properties that are only known by quantum theory or quantum mechanics, sometimes called them. So that's the first thing is what is quantum theory. The next thing, some of you probably know very well, so you're scientists, so I'm not saying nobody knows it. And the next thing, important principle in quantum theory is called the measurement question. The measurement question is, to differentiate it in quantum theory from classical theory. Classical theory, if you know where a particle is, you know its position, you know its speed, you can predict where it's going to be and what is its speed at any future time. And so that means if you know what's called the initial condition, where it was using the laws of physics, you can basically know what's happening. And quantum theory, that changed. That brought in the question called the measurement question, which is now we don't know what's happening in the system we're studying, or whatever particles, or atoms, or a collection of elementary particles. We don't know what's happening with them in terms of where they are, or how fast they are, or things like that. Physical problem, unless we make a measurement. It is not known till we make the measurement. That's called the measurement question. And so we cannot predict it, as possible quantum mechanics. What we find depends on asking a question. First, ask a question. What is the question you want to know? What is the property you want to know? And the question depends on the perspective or the experiment or the finding we want to find out. And then we make a measurement, would mean an experiment. A measurement means you make an experiment that determines something about the charge, or what's called momentum, or spin. That's another property in quantum theory. And the idea is that you need to make that measurement before you know what it is. When you measure it, you know what it is. That's what's called the collapse of the wave function. That instead of a function, classical function, or like a Newton classical function, in the quantum theory, Schrodinger developed this formula that through which you have a function, or something that you could like a graph or a function, mean how something changes in time. But the way the formula describe sort of a cloud of probabilities. It's an indistinct cloud of probability. And so So we don't know. We say it's cloud. It's unknown. When we measure it, the wave collapses. The cloud collapses into one particular thing. Like, oh, it is electron at this position. When and even if you know it in the position, you don't even know the speed. You have to know the speed of the position. That's another thing. The Heisenberg principle. But I'm not going to get into that. I want to use the measurement equation, which is you have to make a measurement before you know what it is. You cannot predict it. You don't know it from predictions. And this is similar to spiritual practice, spiritual experience. You don't know what reality is, who you are, what is your inner state, unless you have an experience. You have to have an experience, and the experience usually for most teaching requires practices. There's the teaching, there's the perspective, there's the practices, exercises one does, and these are like asking a question. The practices is the practice is like trying to answer a question. What am I, or what is the nature of reality, or what is consciousness? And then the experiment is doing the practices, and the practices will lead you to a certain result. And that then we call it an experience. So the measurement issue and measurement in quantum theory will be equivalent to an experiential verification and spiritual realization, spirituality. You need to have experience. You can't just think about it. It's not a logical thing. It is an actual perception, actual experience of something that makes it spiritual. It has to be immediate. The other principle of quantum theory I want to use beside that of the measurement question is the principle of superposition. Called the principle of superposition. The principle of superposition is really described more what we mean by the probability cloud, which means there are all possible answers are there actually. There's no one as all possibilities of the system we are exploring or whatever configuration of thing we're exploring. All the possibilities it can be are already there in the formula. All are present. However, none of them tells us what it is. They're all there. So the superposition, I mean, all answers, all results are already there. However, none of them is there until we make the measurement. So the superposition means all the possibilities are in superposition. They are all there together. That is the measurement idea of the superposition principle. So when we say that spiritual approach to practice is similar to a scientific measurement, this is not controversial, I think, in spiritual teaching. But the next point is, which is related to the question of superposition in quantum theory. Like reality, before we have the experience, before we do the practice and ask the questions and do the practices and get to an actual experience, we don't know what it is. And the idea of superposition in quantum theory appears in spirituality that there are many possibilities of what we can experience. That reality can appear in many ways. They're all there. So not exactly superposition, It's not like they all exist there side by side. I mean, I don't know. Quantum theory, they even say it because they exist there side by side. It's more like as a cloud of probability, nothing indistinct until you make the measurement and the wave collapses, you have a specific result, precise result. And so far, the science so developed, the results are so precise, so hence very useful for things like cell phones or GPS, which requires a very precise thing. So the idea of superposition, and when it comes to spirituality, is to say that the spiritual reality has many ways of presenting itself. They're all implicit, they're all potential. Instead of saying quantum theory is superposition, which has infinite possibilities of findings, here in the spiritual field is that the spiritual reality has infinite potentialities of the ways it can present itself, not only one way. So this is similar to superposition, but not like they're all side by side, but the potentiality, the infinite potentiality is similar to the superposition of infinite possibilities. But that means, just as in scientific experiment, depending on what perspective we have, what find what do you want to find, what question we ask, which means what measurement we make, we get certain results. The same thing in spirituality, depending on what practices we use, what exercises we practice, and what question we ask, we get different results, different experiences, different spiritual experiences. That is controversial. That will be controversial in spiritual teachings. And it is because controversy is the reason I'm giving this series of presentations. Because it is a perspective that shows how that can be. Because for many teaching, spiritual truth is one thing. They call it the ultimate, right? Consciousness. When you find out about the spiritual, it's all pure consciousness. All it is just empty awareness. Or it is just love. When you really find out what the spiritual nature is, pure love, or the pure mystery, or pure presence, or pure light. And each teaching has their answer. And not only that, they think their answer is the only possible answer, believing that all humans will, if they do any spiritual practice, they will get the same result. And I'm saying, no, it depends on what practice you do, what question you ask. You get different result in terms of spiritual realization, spiritual awakening. Spiritual awakening, different people experience different things. And they sound similar because they all have compassion and love, and these are the after effect of it, the outer effect, and the actual truth itself, the very intrinsic truth of what is spirit, what is the nature of spirit, what is the nature of reality. That depends on the person. Depends on the person, depends on what question they ask, which mean depends on what practices they do, which is similar to what same thing in quantum theory, what question we ask and what measurement we make, what kind of experiment we make. So this is the thing I'm presenting mostly. And my question is, and also the observation that there are many teaching, each one get a truth they believe, they feel, and you experience it as this is it. I woke up, I'm realized, I penetrated, reality revealed itself, and it is such. It is pure presence. It is pure consciousness. And of course, teaching disagree with each other. Sometimes there are debates and all of that. And the quantum view of spirituality says, no, you're all right. You're all accurate. When the Buddhists say reality is emptiness or reality is empty awareness, it's accurate and it's true. And it is not the same thing as with that Vedanta say that it is all pure consciousness. They're actually different kind of experiences. People want to make them know they're talking about the same thing. Well, how about when you, like the Sufis or the Kabbalah say it's all love or all mystery? Are we saying it is the same thing as awareness? It isn't. And I know from experience that these are actually different experiences, but each one is valid. Each one is true, which is very, for most people, hard to, how can that be? How can they all be true, all fundamental, and they're all spiritual, they're all the nature of reality? But that brings us back to the idea of superposition, which I hear mentioning in the spiritual realm as infinite potentialities for our true nature, for our spiritual nature to present itself in many ways. So I'm not disagreeing that reality can present itself as a pure awareness or pure consciousness or love or mystery or present. I'm saying yes, all these are true. However, or even though they're all true, they're all. But what's difficult for most people to come to grip with, how can they all be true and they're all different? Isn't spiritual nature just has to be the same thing, one thing? Well, spiritual nature is one. However, the way we experience it, it depends on how it reveals itself. It reveals itself depending on the person, depending on the practice, depending on the question, depending on the attitude, depending on the perspective of the teaching we take. And that is really what I mean by the quantum view of spirituality, which I'll get in more detail about. So my presentation in this series will attempt to clarify what the truth of this multiplicity is. I'm using quantum theory as a lens or metaphor useful in understanding the differences between the teachings in terms of what they take to be ultimate truth. So the quantum measurement question is similar to the various questions we ask, the way we ask them and the practices we employ. By the way, the idea, what's called the measurement question, quantum theory is not completely resolved yet. It's a controversy. What does that mean? Because the original founder, there's an experimenter, and who has a particular interest, particular question, and experimenting in a particular area, and and depending on the experiment, they find different answers, which many of them took it to mean there need to be somebody there who's asking the question, who's doing the experiment. So some of the science believe mean there need to be somebody who has consciousness. Consciousness is important, which is a person who's conscious, who's thinking, who's deciding what experiment, because they are interested in some kind of truth about some area of reality. And that is not completely resolved. Some scientists say, really? Do we really need a person? Do we need a human being or a being to ask a question? Can a computer does it? Well, but the computer has to be programmed by somebody. So somebody involved. And some people, that's where what's called the multiverse idea is that the superposition means all the answers, all the possibilities are, each one is already there, already determined, but in a different universe. So the infinite possibilities, each one, it doesn't depend on our measurement. It's already there, but it manifests in a separate universe. That's what's called multiverses, which is, quite an outlandish theory, not completely accepted, although some people, many people believe in it. So one thing here important to realize, when I talk about quantum superposition to help us understand the fact of multiplicity of ways that spiritual reality can appear, meaning that there are many ways it can be, depending on our experience, it manifests in one way or another. Depending on our practice, our tradition, our teaching, it can manifest as one way or another. I mean, when I do that, I'm not saying that spiritual reality is in a condition of superposition. Superposition is a quantum term, the term quantum theory, meaning there are many possibilities of answers. They're all there, exist at the same time, but we don't know any one of them until we make the experiment, we make the measurement. I'm not saying that all possibilities of spiritual nature all exist there separate. Each one is different from the other, but there's this multiplicity, there's infinite multiplicity. They're all there side by side, but we don't know them till we have the experience. I'm not equating superposition with the infinite potentiality of spiritual nature. I'm using superposition as a metaphor, as a lens to help us understand what we mean that spiritual reality has many possibilities. And that we don't know what the possibility, which one it is until we have an experience. So I know there are many people, there are many scientists, thinkers, they're developing, trying to relate consciousness with physical reality or quantum, and many are trying to use quantum theory to understand consciousness. And I'm not trying to do that. I'm not involved in that kind of endeavor. I'm not saying it's bad or wrong. I'm just that's what I'm not what I'm doing here. I'm not trying to connect the two. I'm not saying also that spirituality is quantum. I'm not talking about quantum, not like spiritual reality is quantum. I'm using quantum principles as metaphor to help us see then here's multiplicity in spiritual truth. It is like quantum superposition, but I'm not saying the spiritual truth is in quantum superposition or that it explained quantum superposition. So I'm not saying that one explains the others. I'm not relating to the two. I'm saying there are two parallel things. There's a parallel there between quantum theory and spirituality in the sense there are different, just like there are many possibilities, and we don't know until we make an experiment of quantum theory and spirituality. There are many possibilities, ways of experiencing our spiritual truth. We don't know it till we do the practice and have the experience. So I'm using the quantum theory as a lens to understand spirituality. This view of spirituality, which is not what you hear when you hear about spiritual teachings. When you hear spiritual teaching, you talk about one particular answer, one particular experience. Oh, we always talk about consciousness and so everything, like Advaita Vedanta. They just want you to experience pure consciousness, that's all, because they believe that is reality. And I think they're right. However, the Buddhists are right, the Sufis are right, the Kabbalah are right, and they're all different. They're not the same. And I know they're not the same because I know each one of them experientially. And some of you probably have that experience one kind or another. So this view is a challenge to many traditions who take the view that there is a specific ultimate truth that we all of us will have to find. I'm saying different people might find different truth, but they're all true. They're all liberating. They all bring freedom. They all bring happiness. They all bring the freedom from suffering, relief from suffering. So I'll illustrate by giving different examples of spiritual realization. I'll do this in this presentation and the next two. I'll be giving different kind of realization to illustrate my perspective, the quantum view of spirituality. So it is a quantum view of spirituality, is not quantum spirituality. I'm not saying spirituality is quantum. The view, the perspective, understanding thing is taken. I'm using the quantum theory to help us develop a perspective. So a view is an important thing to view what a view is. A view is a general overall world view or a view of reality, which is not experience. The view can help orient the experience or is created by many experiences. A view is a perspective. So I'm going to present two kind of realization today to begin exploring the different possibilities of spiritual experience or spiritual realization. Just like having two different solutions in our quantum measurement. And that is the spiritual awakening or realization can be non-dual, as we hear about these days, but it also can be dual realization. They can be a realization within the dualistic world, which many people know and many people don't know. I mean, to sort of give you a little illustration, like in India, people talk about Advaita Vedanta, which is the non-dual view of consciousness. But Advaita Vedanta is one branch of Vedanta. There are two branches of Vedanta, Advaita Vedanta and Vaita Vedanta. Advaita is a non-dual, Vaita Vedanta is dual. Then each one of them is an actual spiritual path. Was only that's in India. Here we don't hear much about it. You only hear about Advaita Vedanta, non-dual. I'm just giving you that some teaching. Already have that. In future lectures, I will be bringing also explaining some different findings or principles of quantum theory to illustrate, to help us understand different kind of realization. I brought in the measurement question and the principle of superposition to help us understand the general view, what I call the quantum view of spirituality. So non-dual realization, for instance, let's take that one, which is one of the realizations very well known by some teaching, which is that when we find out our spiritual nature, we see that we could experience it as consciousness or as awareness, but the thing about it that makes it non-dual is that there is no you experiencing consciousness. You and the conscious are one and the same. So there are no two. There are no subject and object. The subject and object are the same. That's called non-dual. Non-dual means not two. But there's another meaning, another implicit ways in non-dual. Not only there's no separation between you and your true nature or your spiritual nature. You are your spiritual nature. In fact, that's the realization important in any teaching that when you first you can experience a spiritual nature, experience light or presence or conscious, but the realization, the awakening is to realize that is what I am. I am that. The other part of the non-dual, not only there is no separation between the subject and object, but also in terms of our perception and experience, there's no separation between the different objects. Like we don't see in our perception, and if we are the pure consciousness, we see that the different objects, the different things, the stars and the galaxies and the people and trees and birds, they're not all separate individual, separate from everything. No, they're all expression of the same thing. They all constitute one thing, which is the consciousness or the beingness or the awareness. That is another important meaning of non-dual, because brings in what I call the oneness or unity of reality. That, in fact, an important part of the realization why it is amazing and mind-blowing and beautiful and immense is that to realize I am not just this consciousness, and the consciousness that I am is everywhere. And it is not only my nature, it's in the nature of everything. Everything is constituted of consciousness, or everything is constituted out of light, or everything is constituted out of love, or everything is constituted out of presence. But everything is sort of a manifestation with presence as a form of presence. You know, I mean that is when and someone in the Buddha Sutra talk about form as formlessness and formlessness as form. Because there's the formless, which is the unlimited, the infinite, and the forms are all the particular things that we experience in life. You know, and the idea that all those forms are part of the formless, the formation of the formless. It's just like the ocean having waves, many waves, but the waves are still the ocean. Same thing in the non-dual realization of consciousness or presence, that all things are basically forms within formless expanse of awareness or consciousness. And in fact, expressing it and manifesting it and appearing as it, while you yourself, well, I am myself, I am the boundless shore, the shoreless ocean of being, the shoreless ocean of consciousness, where everything is me is like waves of the ocean. That's an important part of what we call non-dual view of reality. So there is non-duality between the experience and the experienced, non-duality between the different things we experience. Just like in your subjectivity, when you really check and see you have thought and feeling, emotion, they might appear separate, but if you're feeling the consciousness where these are all happening, you realize they're all formation and they're all waves within the same consciousness. That extended to the whole world, the whole universe, become the non-dual view of spirituality. And all things are simply from the perspective of the pure consciousness, the pure beingness. Everything is witness. All the forms are I am the beingness that is witnessing all that emerges within me. The issue of course, I am contending with here, and that many teaching or many people believe that is the only way reality can appear. The only way spirituality can uh, inform reality or can appear to us. That's the only possible, that anybody, if they really explore deeply, that's what they will find out. That's the only way that is, you can say is the fundamental truth, the fundamental spiritual truth. And I'm saying in the quantum view of reality, it is one way. It is true way. It is enlightenment. It is liberation. However, there are other ways of experiencing spirituality that sometimes very different from that, but are also have the bliss and the freedom and the liberation. That brings in the quantum principle of superposition. There are many ways. And we only know it through experience. Either whichever it is depends on our experience and depending on the experiencer and the measurement they make, or which means what question or practice they engage. So I want to contrast this view or this kind of spirituality that's called non-dual spirituality, non-dual realization and liberation, which is beautiful, fundamental, and I know it intimately. I teach it, all of that, but I also know and teach other kind of realization, which are just as beautiful, just as liberating. So I'll give you another one that most people don't expect. No, many of the things I'm going to talk about are most people don't expect. However, I'll bring in the simplest, which is what I call dualistic spirituality. Not Advaita, but Veda. Dualistic spiritual, which most people think, well, how can it be? You can't be awakened while you're being dualistic. I'm saying, well, think again. Do another experiment. Do another practice. And this is when I say dualistic spirituality, I mean that we are in the ordinary world, which is a dualistic world. The ordinary world, most people know that everything's separate from everything else. And me, I'm different from what I'm, the person I'm talking to. I have my experience of this and that, and I'm separate from them. So the subject and object are separate. And not only that, all objects are separate from each other. And that is the dualistic world, which is the world that most people know. And you see, many the non-dual teaching, they say that the world, the way people know it, the dualistic world, is an illusion, or the fiction is not really true. We are asleep. When we wake up, we realize it's all non-dual. And the view here in this teaching is that no, it is not an illusion. It is one way reality can be. What's wrong with that? It's just one possibility. Not only that, it can have its own spiritual realization, which means experiencing oneself as spiritual nature, as a present consciousness, but not infinite, not boundless, but localized. Like here in the heart, here within the body or enfolding the body, but not infinite. So one can experience himself as a localized presence, or localized a pure consciousness. The most distinct example of it is experiencing the presence as small as a point. Not only presence that fill the heart, fill the body, can be just one single shining point. Like it is one of the things that many DJs actually know about, which is what's called the inner point of light. Gadada Maharaj talked about it. He said the I am is a point of light. He used the I am, the point of light, the entrance into the non-dual. He thought that the beginning to say I am, and then I am everything. But what is the I am? He didn't go into detail about what is the experience of the I am. So I want to go a little more detailed into how that is a realization on its own. And it is just as liberating as experiencing the non-dual. Which experiencing to be to realize yourself as the presence or the individual consciousness, meaning you are it. I'm not experiencing I'm not experiencing this point of light. I am the point of light. The point of light and presence. First, I see it as a shining, glittering, pure, radiant, beautiful point of light, just like a star. However, a star is a big thing usually. This is just a point. Looks like a star. And can appear in the heart. And when it appears in the heart, I can't be it. When I become it, I'm completely this point of light, so much so that I doesn't feel like a point or not a point, but localized here. I'm just this purity of and of radiance, of light, of consciousness, aware of myself or aware of others directly, intimately. And this consciousness, this presence is free, is freedom, is bliss. And not only that, it's timelessness. There's no time passes on it. It's a timeless presence that is here in this room. And I don't feel it as containing the whole room or containing the whole universe or the whole universe and expression of me. No, the universe continues as it is, except there is a simplicity and orderliness and a cleanliness to it. Everything seemed to be cleansed. Everything seemed to be clean, seemed to be uh, distinct. But I don't see that things are connected to each other. Everything is what it is. The question whether it's separate or not separate is irrelevant. I don't see not everything is a form out of the formlessness. The experience from this kind of realization being pure, localized presence and consciousness, that is also freedom, also bliss, also non-suffering. The awareness of that is the witnessing of everything appears as I am it. This presence is witnessing it. It's the same similar kind of mode of experience or awareness are the non-dual. They're both are witnessing the multiplicity, all witnessing the details or the different form. However, from the non-dual is I am the infinite witnessing the finite. Here, I'm not infinite. I'm here localized, but I'm witnessing all that is surrounding me. I don't feel I am the world or the TV is part of me. No, the TV is over there, or I mean the screen is over there, but I am here witnessing it. And I'm not the individual personality or ego or none of that. No, it's pure present consciousness. That the realization can be so full, so complete. I don't even know whether it is not self-reflect. It doesn't look into itself. It just is itself and witnesses everything else. Witnesses with spontaneity and freedom. And life is free and spontaneous and delightful and with compassion and love, just similar to the non-dual view. So there's witnessing without reaction. There is spontaneity. There's no control. And non-dual, you can't be a sense of nowness. Everything is just now. And this realization is not exactly nowness, it's more timelessness. There's no time. I'm outside. Time passes around me, but that doesn't pass on me. It passes on the mountains, on the trees, and the birds, and the people. It doesn't pass on me. I am outside of time at this simple, pure, formless, but not infinite. It is a point of light when I am it completely. I don't feel it as a point. Or it could be just pure presence as a localized, filling the heart. But when you are completely it, you don't feel it in relation to the heart. So I'm here illustrating two kinds of realization, depending on the experiencer. Different experience. Some people experience one, some experience the other, and they could fight between them about what is real. They're both real from my perspective. So I'm pointing to the truth that there is such a thing as dual spirituality that is real and a path on its own, with its own wonder, just like there is non-dual spirituality. And in fact, from my perspective, it is better to have both at the same time. But how can you be non-dual and live your life. If you are all and everything, well, what does it mean to drive your car? What does it mean to eat? I mean, it will be difficult to envision and to have a personal life if you only completely the infinite. So I think having both at the same time, both dual and non-dual, can be. I'm aware of the infinite, but I also can have a personal, individual life without being separate from the infinite. So we can have both at the same time. So if we have both views at the same time, then we recognize we are a boundless presence but expressing itself as a localized pure presence that moves and acts. So in the next presentation, I'll be discussing different kind of realizations that we will, explore to illustrate this uh, this quantum view of spirituality.
Thank you, Hamid, for taking my question. It's an honor to talk with you. I'm curious about how the quantum view of spirituality connects with the Enneagram in particular. And you spoke about how the spiritual reality can display itself in infinite ways. And you spoke about how it can display itself as the point of light, which, if I understood you in the keys to the Enneagram, that would be associated with point 4. I wonder if the infinite ways could be mapped by the points on the Enneagram, if there's maybe 9 basic ways that it can show up, and then the other ways are permutations or variations on those 9 basic ways, or if it's more complex than that. I'd love to know your perspective.
Well, yeah. When I think of the quantum view of spirituality, I don't think much of the Enneagram. I think Enneagram can be included in the sense has some of those realizations in it. But it's a limited number. The realizations are not limited. So the Enneagram just basically talks about some of them. So, I mean, I know I've written several books about the Enneagram, and the book about the Enneagram that shows more the view of realization from the perspective of the Enneagram is my book about holy ideas. And the holy ideas, that the holy ideas really are different. They're all about the non-dual view. There are different facets of the non-dual view. While the other book you talk about bringing the point, but I brought in the point, but I'm not bringing the realization of the point in it.
Mm.
See, realization, the point is what is idealized, and or the idealization is based on the point, and point 3, the Enneagram. However, I'm not talking about the realization. In that book, I'm not talking about liberation, awakening, or realization. But what are the qualities, spiritual qualities, that are most dominant for each type? But if you want to talk about realization and awakening, you need to go to the facets of reality, about the holy ideas. But that one, it's actually mostly about the non-dual view.
Yeah, I understand. And the non-dual view is not the only way it can show up.
Exactly. That's the whole thing about the quantum view of reality, because everybody these days talking about non-dual.
Yeah.
You notice? Everybody that does anything spiritual, they say non-dual. Sometimes they don't really mean non-dual, they mean spiritual. So non-duality and spirituality becoming conflated. Well, non-duality is just one way spirituality can be, and which is a beautiful, wonderful way of liberation. So that's one thing. Good. Your question here make a distinction between spiritual and non-dual. Spiritual is not always non-dual. You see. Okay, thanks for asking the question, Paul.
Oh, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Hi there.
Hey.
Thank you for doing that. It's an honor to listen to you. And it's not so much a question. First of all, sorry, total sidetrack question, but I look at that picture on your shelf behind you. Is that the 16th Karmapa? That's what I want to know.
It is the 16th Karmapa, my favorite Karmapa.
I guess it's all of
The Karmapa I actually met,
You did?
Yeah,
Wow.
I met and got to the black hat empowerment, all that. Very good.
Yeah, I missed that, but I've been with the lineage quite deeply for some years, and then I was called, I don't know what to call it, but I guess it's back home because I was raised in Christian traditions, but I never found a connection to it. And this whole
Yeah, that's the Kagyu lineage of the Buddha.
I know.
Yeah.
I was there 7 years. I met many of them, and
I mean, he was a realized individual. In fact, I haven't seen another Tibetan Lama as realized that he was. He was the big guy at that time. The Lama used to ask him for when he had the question. But he's gone, and now Anyway, you recognize the picture. So you have a question?
Yeah, the question was just, I mean, I was on burning if it's him because I'm staring the whole time and thinking.
Yeah.
So thanks for that clarification. And I think the course of our lives, maybe waking up to ourselves, we find more of where we belong between the two camps. I find it highly valuable that you pointed that out today. And I discover more and more when I have such a deep devotional heart, then you need the other, which is God in some form, and it starts to become very much alive. So more than a question, I wanted to appreciate my gratitude because the path is the path, and facets of unity is similar to, or just like.
So the Father meaning. So that's the thing about the dualistic kind of spirituality, that most people's spirituality is dualistic. Most people, they live a normal life, they're in an ordinary world, and they have spiritual experiences. You see, they're not all living in pure consciousness everywhere, and the whole universe is a consciousness or awareness, and that's not how most people. It's very few people actually experience non-dual view at their life, but most people's spirituality is dualistic, and I'm giving those people the benefit of the doubt. Your spirituality is real.
Yeah, and it's a sincere path. I mean, I was for Tibetan Buddhism, and there, all the practice is very dualistic on one level,
Yeah, true. I mean, Tibetan Buddhism does not negate the dualistic,
And then you get glimpses of experiences. I had some. So anyway, it's not so much ultimate mystery. The ultimate mystery stays. But anyway, thank you.
Yeah, good talking to you. Hey, Peter.
Hi. Hey, Hamid. Long time no see. Great to see you. Two questions. One is that you talk about most people live dualistically in the normal life, and then they have spiritual experiences, and yet I think that you in the Vaita dualistic description you're making, you're really focusing on the point, the localized point, which isn't necessarily what people are experiencing on a daily basis and as they lead their normal lives. I'd like you to clarify that. And then the other question I had was, you talked about the quantum perspective and the quantum metaphor, and it depends on the questions people ask. And then the questions will lead to different results and different states of being. I was wondering if you could give some examples of the questions that are being asked by the two examples that you gave today.
Well, the question is like, well, I don't know. The people ask different kind of questions, but the question and also the practice. The question determines the practice you do. So each teaching has its view of reality, which means we'll have specific questions, and we'll have practices, which is like the experiment.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the question is like, what is spirit? Who am I? What am I? What is real? What is the meaning of life? Like the point of light can appear when you ask, what is the meaning of light, for instance. That can directly lead to the realization of the point of light. Because when you realize it, you realize the meaning of light, that is the meaning of light, meaning of life.
And in terms of the non-dual second turning experience that you're talking about, the Advaita, what would you say that question is?
What is the nature of reality? Assuming that all reality has one nature. You see, the view is the assumption that reality has one final, ultimate nature. That's the view, which then determines what practices you do, what question you ask. You can ask the question in many ways, but there's a view there about reality, which it has an ultimate nature, one ultimate nature.
It implies its own answer.
Yeah, it already implied, but you don't know what it is until you experience it, though. Yeah. It's good. So you're making it more specific about what questions.
Right. Each tradition, what question it's
each tradition, I mean, if you inquire into it, you're asking specific questions.
Yeah.
Like in Buddhism, part of the view is that the importance of emptiness. Like emptiness is an important part of the view. And then what kind of question you ask that reveal about what is emptiness? So like the Tibetan Buddhists, emptiness is not just emptiness. They include emptiness in their realization as empty awareness. Awareness, or as Doctrine called Rigpa, or Dharmakaya, is the fundamental truth. And it is empty. It is awareness, radiance, or clarity, but it is an empty, it has no self-existence. Great, Peter. Good seeing you today.
Same. Thank you, Hamid. Yeah. Good to see everybody.
When you were presenting the point,
the
experience and the realization of the point, towards the end of that, I think I heard you say the point is formless. My understanding, my experience is that the point is a form of experience, of realization. We can have a view or see the formless. We can experience, we can understand the formless, but that we're being a form, a specific form that true nature takes.
Good question. I was actually wondering about that when I was saying it. I thought, somebody's going to ask me about I use the word formless. Let me clarify.
Okay.
Right. The point is a form. The point, of course, is a very distinct form. It's one point, dimensionless point.
Yes.
And even though it's a point of light or a point of presence, by the way, many things like Raja Yoga focuses on the point of light. That is their realization, into that realization to realize you are a point of light. But so there is the experience of the point of light, and there's the realization of the point of light. I make the distinction. Realization to see that is what I am. But when you are being the point, you don't feel it as a point.
Okay.
In the sense of being a point disappears because the point has radiance. So you are the point, both the point and its radiance. And because of the radiance, there is no sense of a form of a point.
I see.
It's in that sense I meant it as formless. I didn't mean formless in the way of non-dual, infinite formlessness, not infinite. But it doesn't seem it is localized. It's localized here, in this room, in this body, however, not localized as a point. When you see it as a point, you can feel it as a point. When you're completely it, the sense of being a point disappears. There's just simplicity of being.
I see. So the whole question of form and formless disappears at that point.
Yeah. I mean, calling formless may be not exact, but it is in the sense, I mean, you don't feel yourself as a point when you are the point.
When you are the point.
Yeah.
That itself is pretty amazing, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, sometimes I see the point whizzing around and, going around, and many people, when they first see the point, it's what's this point of light coming around? I call it the Star of Bethlehem. Then
it's when I first saw it, I saw it that way, but even to call it a point, it was too something. It was not even a point. I mean, it was. I haven't been able to find the word to describe it. It was infinitesimally something, but so infinitesimal that point was a little, But I get the idea.
Well, I mean, a point, geometry. A point means dimensionless.
Yes. Okay, good. That clarifies that.
I do have a comment, Hamid, about when you were talking about the difference the question makes.
Yes.
And what I got was how important it is to, when working with a teacher, because my questions can go more towards my personality, more towards, and the teacher asks a question that penetrates all of my ideas and beliefs. And I just suddenly got, how important it is to have someone have a different kind of question being asked than my familiar questions.
It can lead to a different result, different question,
Exactly. So I saw inquiry in a whole new, right, that's, just
very
wanted
good point, I mean, that's what it is in the quantum theory. They ask a question, well, like they have an experiment, like in two particles sort of same kind of interaction. They ask him, well, what results from that interaction? They don't know until they make the experiment.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
So you ask a question.
Yeah, in classical theory, if you already know how you begin, you can predict. Quantum theory cannot predict. That's why they say it's a probability.
Yeah.
And everybody says probability, that seems so imprecise. It's imprecise till you measure it, and then the precision is amazing.
Exactly. Yes. Same in experience. Yes.
Same in experience,
Yeah. With the point, things get very precise.
Yeah, point bringing one-pointed precision.
One-pointed precision.
Well, good talking to both of you.
Yeah.
Thank
you
you,
too,
Hamid.
Hamid.
Thank
you.
Thanks, Amelia, and hi, Hamid, and
hi, Mark.
Thanks for this lecture series. Very interesting. I've loads of questions, but I'll keep it simple and short. When you talked about when you talked about also being able to have a non-dual experience in your practice, and also being able to have a more dualistic spiritual experience, and that both of those are possible. I find it interesting. Like while you were speaking and talking, I had a very strong sense of presence, you know, my own aliveness, which to me feels, well, the word spiritual, yeah, it feels like it's real, you know, especially when you paused a couple of times, and during those pauses, I really came into a sense of being here. And I also practice in Mahamudra tradition. And when I do that, those practices, the focus is usually more on more open sort of spacious awareness, which is different. And sorry, that was my phone thinking I was talking to it. It responded back. Sorry. So my question is, are some people more, when I'm with my Diamond Approach group, I feel more of this sense of personal presence and aliveness when I'm with people, and even during the meditations. And when I'm practicing by myself, it's more the open, spacious awareness feel. The aliveness thing feels a little bit more exciting. I don't know if that's relevant. So can one be more prone to awakening in a dualistic spirituality more so than the non-dual? Because as you were saying, like not many people actually have non-dual realization.
Yes, I think different people are different that way. And that's why different people are drawn to different teachings. Yeah. But yes, but it is, I mean, I was drawn to different things. I experienced many kinds. Most people, you know, it's good. I mean, I'm not saying you should experience many kinds. One is enough, usually. You know? And one really, to feel free and fulfilled. I mean, that's wonderful, regardless of what realization. I'm just opening the view so that, you know, the thing is that because when you look at one reason I'm doing this, the quantum view spirituality, and when you look around the world these days, there's so much division, so much opposition. Just because we're different, we are opposed. You know, we are different and we can't meet. And so the quantum view is to say, no, wait a minute, guys. You know, we're all different, but we're all real. We're all true. We're all precious. And I want spiritual teaching to do the same thing. Each one is real, but that doesn't mean the other one is wrong. Because each one is trying to prove the other is wrong. I'm saying, no, you can be real and the other one is real too. And we can appreciate each other. That way, there can be non-discrimination in spiritual teaching.
But is it better to pick one and just really go?
Yeah, you take one, but that doesn't mean when you have the realization, that one, you negate the other teaching realization. No, you might not know it, but the problem, if we take our realization, one teaching, and say that is the really truth, well, how is that different from being a Republican and said my truth is true? The Democrats don't know what they're talking about. It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So I want to bring in that kind of sense of non-discrimination, equality in the spiritual teachings. That is one of the attempt of this series of lectures. So I'm using quantum theory to bring that equality.
Yeah. Great. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to hearing.
Yeah, we'll be discussing other kind of realization that are more unusual than when we have so far talked about now, that are less known, but also by bringing different principles of quantum theory. So good talking with you, Mark.
Thank you, Hamid.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much. And thank you, Hamid, for your work. I'm excited. So I do associate that with what Mark was talking about, that the point of light has a certain excitement to it, at least when I have experienced it. And I have two things. One is a comment and one's a question. One is the relationship between the point of light and what Gurdjieff called self-remembering. I came to the work through the Gurdjieff work, and I felt when I experienced the point of light, it was the same as some things I experienced from self-remembering. And that also relates to the differences in the function of the different types of spirituality, because, as you pointed out, if you're truly a non-dual, it's a little hard to live life. But if you're in what they call the fourth way, the spirituality in life, that's more connected with, in my opinion, self-remembering.
Yes.
And,
yeah.
And the other question I had is, you have a book on the point of existence. And in your book, you mention narcissism as the issue of the point of light.
Right.
I wonder if you could say a little more about that also, but I would love to hear what your thoughts are also about Gurdjieff. Thank you.
Well, narcissism is when somebody believes they are so important, they're hot shit.
I'm sorry,
when somebody believes they are really important and superior, and you call it grandiosity. So narcissism is basically misidentifying with one is. You don't know yourself. So all egos are narcissistic. However, narcissism can become more dominant, and then when it becomes more dominant, you become insufferable. You believe you're the only one who knows, you are the greatest, things like that, the grandiose ideas about oneself. It's a big topic about narcissism. That book goes in details. But I think the thing you bring in about Gurdjieff, true, Gurdjieff's work is more down to earth, more grounded, which is more way of living life from a spiritual perspective. And it's true from the non-dual, what I noticed, many people who are into the non-dual, I mean, it's true, they are free, whatever, when they are being like, but when it comes to interacting with other people or living their life, they have to become the ego individual again. They cannot take their non-duality with them into life. It's more difficult. It's possible to do it, but there's a whole other step to really learn a different level of realization, non-duality, to be able to live from that perspective. So that's good. Thanks for bringing up the Gurdjieff perspective.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm in California, DH9, and you gave a talk some years ago about basic trust that really was impactful for me, sort of along these lines. I believe what I understood you said, what you're talking about quantum mechanics in the context of basic trust, and the idea was that we don't know the immediate future. We don't know how the future is going to unfold. There are many possibilities, and it's not that there's a force ensuring or pushing, benign outcomes, but that a benign outcome or a benign immediate future is a possibility. It's one of the many possibilities, sort of like quantum possibilities, and that's sort of the point of basic trust, to believe that is one of the possibilities, and to, act with that belief.
Yeah, I mean, basic trust is similar to what's called faith, some spiritual teaching, which is the trusting in reality that it will turn out to be okay if I am true, if I am sincere with myself. And that I mean, the reality can move in the right direction for me if I stay true to it. So trusting, basic trust means trusting reality, whatever happens. I don't have to know what the future is going to be.
So it's not just trusting that it's a possibility that, you know, it will work out for you, but it's believing that if you are true to true nature, it will.
Well, it's more like the basic trust is trusting in reality in general.
Yeah.
You might not know it as true nature or spiritual nature, but trusting in life or trusting in that reality, if you, especially if we are honest and sincere with ourselves, you see, if you're lying to yourself, I mean, that means you don't have basic trust. If you have basic trust, you don't lie to yourself. So basic trust is a concept I use in this teaching to imply there is a possibility of developing in us or recognizing in us the inherent trustingness in reality for my individual life, that it will move in the right direction.
Okay, thank you.
I think that's a good beginning, and we have a lot more interesting and sort of more principle, as I said, the quantum theory that I will use to illustrate different kind of spiritual experience and realization that maybe some of us know, some of us don't know. Just to illustrate the view, there are many ways of spiritual realization. But it depends on our question, depends on our interest, and our experiment, which is our experience. So goodbye, everybody, till then.